A battle between an army of monsters and the greatest warriors in human history. Only one can win. Who will it be? During the Warring States period, the state of Qin was a veritable monster. The state had absorbed the 6 other states one by one, like a hungry beast. At this point, only 2 more states stood in its way. And so the Qin army assembled an elite force of 400,000 troops to destroy them once and for all. But they weren't expecting what happened next. As the Qin army grew closer to their enemy, they could see that their target had prepared for them. A great wall stretched across the horizon, cutting off any chance of a frontal assault. The Qin army was blocked. They couldn't believe it. No one had ever dared to challenge the might of the Qin army before. Now the Qin soldiers were facing an entire army camped out behind the wall, hiding from them. These soldiers were part of the coalition between the 2 remaining states. They had known about the massive Qin army headed their way, so they did the unthinkable. They built a great wall, 50 feet high with 50 feet wide crenellations every 5 feet along its peak. Not even the mightiest catapult could break through such a structure. It would take weeks, maybe months to scale this thing. But they didn't have that kind of time. They needed to strike now. So the general of the Qin army made a plan. He would use hot air balloons to get past the wall and infiltrate the enemy camp. Our next battle pits the fiercest warriors against the most powerful monsters. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Warriors have been fighting each other since the beginning of time. But occasionally, some battles become legendary. The clash between the Spartans and the Persians at the Battle of Thermopylae is one such example. Though the Spartans were vastly outnumbered, they managed to hold off the Persian army for 3 days. Leonidas, the Spartan king, rallied his men and told them, "This is where we make our stand. Come, let us show these foreigners the meaning of true courage." Their bravery became an inspiration to everyone around the world. But what if the Spartans had faced not another army of men, but an army of monsters instead? How would they fare? The best warriors in the world. Facing mythical beasts, the Spartans would certainly stand a chance. That's because Sparta was the most militaristic society the world had ever seen. From the time they were born, Spartan boys were trained in the art of war. They were taught how to fight with every weapon, how to read the battlefield, and how to defeat their enemies. By the time they were 20, they were considered elite soldiers. But these warriors weren't superhumans. They were just men with swords and shields. The question is, could they defeat creatures like the Chimera, the Minotaur, or the Hydra? The Chimera was a fire-breathing monster with the head of a lion, the body of a goat, and a tail that ended in a snake's head. The Minotaur was a giant bull monster, and the Hydra was a water-dwelling serpent with 9 heads, each capable of poisonous spraying. But even though the beasts were strong, they also had weaknesses. The Chimera was too big and heavy, which made it slow. The Minotaur was incredibly aggressive and charged recklessly into battle. And the Hydra's heads could be regenerated, but only after a certain amount of time. This meant that if the Spartans could exploit these weaknesses, they might actually stand a chance. With their discipline and training, the Spartans could form a circle around the Chimera, poking it with their spears until it exhausted itself. Then they could take it down one by one. The Minotaur's strength would be no match for the Spartans' coordinated attacks. And as for the Hydra, well, the Spartans would have to be patient. If they could wait long enough for the monster's heads to stop regenerating, then they could kill it. We all love watching movies about valiant heroes who go up against enormous beasts and win. But sometimes it takes more than brute strength to win a battle. Sometimes intelligence is just as important. When the Mongols attacked the city of Baghdad, they thought it would be an easy victory. But they hadn't counted on the brilliant defense of the caliph's vizier, Al-Khwarizmi. Though he wasn't a warrior, he was a master of strategy. He knew that the Mongols were experts at archery, so he ordered the gates to be opened just a crack, just enough for a few Mongol archers to slip through. Once inside, however, those same archers found themselves surrounded by the Caliphate's elite warriors. They were quickly overwhelmed and slaughtered. Khwarazmi had anticipated this and ordered decoy Mongol banners to be planted outside the city walls. When the rest of the Mongol army saw their banners being attacked, they assumed their comrades had already entered the city and were in control. None suspected that they were being lured into a trap. In the end, the Mongols suffered heavy losses and had to retreat. For more on this incredible battle, check out the series in the description below. When King Croesus went to war against the Persians, he assembled the most elite force of warriors the Greeks had ever seen. His army was composed of the finest soldiers from all over Greece, including Lydia, Athens, and Sparta. Together, they formed a force of 70,000 infantrymen and 10,000 horsemen. But when Croesus's scouts reported back to him, telling him that the Persian army was even bigger, he panicked. He sent messengers across Greece asking for help. But while waiting for reinforcements, he had to find a way to defeat Cyrus's army. He decided that his only chance was to use guerrilla tactics. Cyrus was used to open battles where the two armies clashed in the open field. But Greece was full of mountains and forests that were perfect for ambushes. So Croesus led his army deep into the mountains and avoided the Persian army. He harassed them with hit-and-run attacks, always disappearing before Cyrus could rally his forces. For a while, it seemed as if Greece would win. But then something unexpected happened. Cyrus's army began to dwindle. The Persians were suffering from starvation and exhaustion. They had never fought a war like this before, and they didn't know how to deal with the elusive Greek army. In the end, Croesus's strategy paid off. The weakened Persian army retreated, and Greece was saved. But what if this battle had taken place on an alien planet with an atmosphere that the Greeks couldn't breathe? It was a world of harsh deserts, towering mountains, and deep canyons. The ground was covered in sharp rocks, and the sky was filled with deadly sandstorms. Most importantly, the gravity was much stronger than Earth's gravity. It would be hard for anyone to move around on this planet, let alone fight a war. But the Greek army was determined to win. They had come too far to turn back now. The Greeks split up into smaller groups and fanned out across the landscape. They used their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage, hiding in the shadows of rocks and buildings. They attacked the Persians when they least expected it. The Persians were confused and exhausted. They couldn't figure out where the Greeks were coming from. They were being attacked from all sides. In the end, the Persians lost the battle. But it wasn't because the Greeks were stronger or more skilled fighters. It was because they were able to adapt to a new environment. It seems that no matter the odds, a human spirit can never be broken. What do you think? Which side do you think would win? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like these. See you next time.